There we go. It's 8 o'clock. So I'm going to turn the time over to Teresa Hunsaker from our Be Ready Utah webinar and our Be Ready Utah Expo planning team to kick us off on this next great session. I'm looking forward to it very much. Teresa.
Thank you. Thanks. It's nice to be with you tonight and nice to have so many joining us. I'm excited about this particular topic because as the poll mentioned, or Wade mentioned in the poll in the survey, we had a number of respondents that were so interested in family preparedness. So tonight we have interviewed 4 different families and gone to their homes, bless them for letting us into their homes to record them. We wanted to have some takeaways from some of the things that they do to involve their family, to get prepared, to take some of those, protective actions in their own family life and prepare their families a little bit better. So tonight we hope that you will listen with kind of 3 things in mind. First, what are some common themes that might run through each one of the interviews? Second, maybe use those as a checklist. Some of the things that these 4 families will mention might pique some interest for you. So consider how maybe you could involve your family a little bit more in these protective actions that we've talked about tonight. And then the third thing that we are hoping will be a takeaway is some goal setting for you and your family. As Wade just mentioned, we know that there are many people, and even for me, it seems like such a big elephant to eat at one time, this big preparedness umbrella. And so we hope that you will set goals that will be specific for your family based on some of the things where you're feeling a little weak, and that it'll just be a little bit at a time. The more that you can do, obviously, the better. The families that we have for you tonight are Jeff and Kim Stinson. Then second will be Randy and Jennine Park. Third will be Patrick and Maria Tedjamulia. And then fourth will be Seth and Michelle Call. And these are families who are doing the very best that they can to engage their family, to be more prepared, and to take into account the importance of one step at a time in preparedness. So thanks to Brian Stinson, we'll turn the time over to him to run those videos, and then we will have some discussion. A few of these families are with us tonight, and we hope that you'll ask some questions of them as you think about these conversations tonight. So Brian.
I'm Jeff Stinson.
I'm Kim Stinson, and we've got 6 kids.
Twins in the middle.
Yep. So it keeps us pretty busy.
I think emergency preparedness is important to me because it makes sense in a lot of ways.
And it definitely provides peace of mind when you know what the plan is, that you have the supplies you need, so that when a disaster comes, you don't just fall apart. You're ready to spring into action and do what needs to be done. Well, I think sometimes there's a little bit of a stigma for people who are always looking to prepare for that next big disaster. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's just normal common sense. And it wasn't like, so glad we have those supplies because there's this big disaster that we're worried about.
Run for the underground bunker.
It wasn't like that. It was just like, oh, glad that we thought to have some of those things because I don't have to really worry.
Glad we have an extra pack of toilet paper. Glad we, have some extra salt. Just things, so that you don't just wait till you're down to your very last of something before you go pick up some more.
Well, and I actually got a list from your mom that showed, okay, here's the basics that you need. Here's the things that are nice to have. And so I had that in hand and was able to look through our pantry and say, okay, we have this. Oh, but we don't have this, and kind of make a list of things. And, it's expensive to go get it all at once, but we just add a little bit over time. And
And
until we have a good supply.
And I think, Kim did a really good job of that, building it over time, because, the idea of emergency preparedness is so big. It can be overwhelming. Where do you take it to? Are you just going to have some extra shampoo and that's all you have? Or are you going to have the bunker buried in the backyard that's stocked full of stuff to live in there for a year? Or somewhere in between. And which disaster are you preparing for? For earthquakes, for tornadoes, for floods, for pandemics, for what is it you even prepare for? And so I think a lot of times it gets so overwhelming. But at least like with food storage, when you're at the store and you see salt on sale, we'll buy 2, or 3, or get a big bucket of it. And salt's not very expensive, and you can easily do the same with toilet paper. You're like, well, how many rolls do we go through in a week? You kind of do the math, and you're like, well, how much do we need? Oh, I just need 2 packages from Costco. The big, well, there we go. That's easy. That's not even expensive. And so sometimes you can just kind of do it over time, and it grows gradually and naturally. You don't have to make a big plan.
Purchase.
Yeah, a big purchase, or even a big plan of here's my goal of then I'm prepared for an emergency. That's just too overwhelming, and it doesn't work out. And I think if even a way to start, if you have nothing, is get a grocery bag, put a pocket knife in it, a bottle of water, a flashlight, and a box of Band-Aids. That's a start. And that's probably more prepared than a lot of your neighbors are. And in an emergency, you can grab that and run out the door, and you've got some things to help you. And as as you have that, then later you might come across an extra backpack at a garage sale. So you just upgraded your kit, and then you might go, oh, you know what? You find some first aid kits and you replace that with your box of Band-Aids. And it just, over time, gradually, naturally, you become more and more prepared with just things that you think of to change what you have or to add to what you have. And it doesn't have to be this big, overwhelming thing. It's more like a state of mind. If you just kind of have it rattling around the back of your head of what if, I don't have to be a prepper, but I can just have in the back of my head, what if my car broke down right now? Am I prepared for that?
I remember one of the first things we did when we were married was do our 72-hour kits. And we each had our backpack, and we had our list of supplies that needed to be in that. And we'd gotten those backpacks, we received those backpacks from your mom, and they had supplies in them. But then as we went through each of those, we thought of things that we needed individually. And I think you'd mentioned before, like an extra pair of glasses, and I put some extra contacts in. Some clothes that fit me, different things that were beyond what was already in there. We individualized our 72-hour kits.
Yeah. I think one thing that's really changed with our disaster kits, our 72-hour kits, is
Since having kids,
is that it's fun to pull them out, and all the kids know that they have this special backpack that's for an emergency. And so every once in a while we'll pull them out just to even remind ourselves what's in them. They can sit there for 6-8 months, and you pull them out and you're like, oh, that was a good idea. I forgot that was even in there. But it's fun for the kids to see it, and they can be like, oh, that's my coloring book, and that's my box of crayons. And the older ones are like, oh, I got a pocket knife in there, and so it's fun for them to just be aware of it. And then we'll update it as the kids grow, things change. The 15-year-old doesn't need the coloring book anymore, and so we'll kind of change things as we go along, and as they get older, we'll even let them, work on their own 72-hour kits and put it back together and add anything to it that they want to, and kind of coach them on that so they don't overload their pack with silly things, but
Well, and I think another thing we had to think about when having kids was that, are they going to be able to carry their own packs? And so we started going, okay, we've got this backpack for each kid, but is it going to be realistic for the 4-year-old to be able to carry all of these things? And what about, because we have our 72-hour kits, but then we also have a family kit that has things that the family would share amongst us, like a little stove and things like that. And it's like, well, who's going to carry that? And so then we thought, well, I think it was your mom that introduced backpacks with wheels. We're like, that's fantastic, because the 4-year-old might not be able to carry their backpack, but they can pull it, you know? And so things like that, you have to think about, can they handle are they going to be able to carry it themselves?
And even our family kit is a duffel bag with wheels on it. So, you know, I could be wearing my backpack, but then I could be pulling the family kit behind me. And so, it's taken us many years to get to where we even have the kits for everybody and to where they're at, and the family kit. And, you know, so, like I said before, it's a process. You know, we didn't start that way. We kind of add to it over time, and, you know, once a year or maybe even every other year, we pull them out and we kind of work on them and upgrade them and fix them a little, or thoughts come to mind of, hey, I should add that to it, or what if this happens? Maybe I could use that one thing.
You know what we should probably do too is, because we have to rotate the food in it ever so often, is we should get them out, the food kits from the 72-hour kits out, and have the kids eat them and see if there's things that they are not even willing to eat. And maybe make sure we need to repack it with stuff that they'll actually eat.
Yeah, just get a bunch of cookies and shove them in there.
Yeah, just a bunch of cookies. Got to keep spirits up. Just fill this 72-hour kit with cookies.
3 days of cookies.
3 days worth of cookies.
I do remember one thing that that happened to me once. Is somebody that I knew was moving out of their house, and I was there shortly after they moved out, and found some things they left behind, and one of them was a 72-hour kit, and I asked them, I said, you know, do you want this? And their response was, no, that's garbage, I've never needed it. And I always just remember that. I always just think, well, good. You know, thank goodness you've never needed your 72-hour kit, but that doesn't make it garbage. You know, I remember my mom saying once, well, you've never needed life insurance, right? Does that mean it's garbage? Does that mean you don't need it? You know, so, you know, it's an insurance type of thing. And I think, again, the biggest thing is just don't get overwhelmed by it. You know, you just gradual, start with what you have around the house, and just let the ideas come, and start with a grocery bag and a pocket knife, and just see where it goes from there. You got to start somewhere, and if that's what you have around the house, that's enough, until you find something to add to it, and then add that.
So I'm Randy Park. Jennine and I have been together for 37 years. We have 3 children. Each of them are out of the home now. They've all been through college.
Empty nesters, yep, for quite a while. So we became interested in emergency preparedness pretty much from the time we were first married. Randy and I both come from grandparents who lived through the Depression, parents born in the Depression, and I listened to my grandmother tell me how they ate potatoes 3 times a day. And so our parents both always stored food, and so anyway, we just started storing food, and when we first got married and when we moved to this house 33 years ago, we attended a conference on emergency preparedness, and we got our first 72-hour kit. And from there, over the next 33 years, we've just kind of evolved in our level of preparation.
And also, as you probably know, when you have children, you start to think about what's best for them. I travel a lot, and I remember in one of my traveling mornings, it was a really cold morning in Minnesota, where they do know how to do cold, right? And one of the little kids came running up to the bus stop without a coat. And it made me think about, okay, in an emergency, what do my children have?
I just remember my grandmother, my dad's mother, just talking about eating potatoes 3 times a day. And it's more of what I watched my grandparents do. They always had a garden. They always had food in the basement, food storage, and they saved everything. It was use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. It was just a different type of lifestyle, and that's what I watched growing up. So Randy had the same thing.
Yeah, my dad always had at least 2 years of storage in, somewhere in the house. And of course, I was raised on a small farm, so we always had a beef, and we had pigs, and we had chickens, and we milked cows. So we always had kind of a built-in food storage. And then when we moved here, we obviously had to figure out how to be prepared without a small farm.
We are not the best either. We have a very small yard, and like we said, we've been married a long time, and we've just added over the years. We have a small garden, but we have tried to follow, what we watched. But our grandparents had storage, and our parents both, so it's more what we watched growing up.
Well, the other thing is my father lost his job and was out of work for over 2 years, and we used our food storage. And the one thing that I realized as a child is that we weren't used to the wheat, we weren't used to the rice, so one of the things that Jennine and I do is we actually do implement our food storage into our regular diet.
Yeah, we have a hand grinder, which we hope to not have to use, but I have an electric grinder. We know how to use our grains, and we also know what to do with those dry beans that everybody stores. We know how to cook them and prepare them. So it's more what we watched growing up. As parents and grandparents, we have done a few things to help our married children with their families be prepared for Christmases. We have given food storage. All of our children living at home had 72-hour kits, and when they got married, we sent their kit along with them.
We also built kits for their spouses.
Yes, we did. We prepared kits for their spouses, and all of them, when they went to college, also had their 72-hour kit at college with them. So, but at some point, they have to take it and lead themselves. And so hopefully through, watching us and growing up with that they can do that too. And the other thing is, it is expensive to do a lot. So it just do one thing at a time. Don't let it overwhelm you. Like I said, we've been married 37 years. We have always done something. We just added a little bit every year, and so we hope that our children will grab onto that as well. And like I said, start with the 3-month supply.
Right, and treat it like the groceries. Every time you go grocery shopping, grab something extra. And then, there's a case slot sale. Jennine is quick to let everybody know, communicate. There's a case slot sale at this certain grocer, and often we will hear back from them that, yes, I picked up an extra case or 2 cases, or, what should I get, and then, of course, then we can chime in because we know they're interested. So just maybe some tips and tricks that we found along the way. You can always go and get these little food items that are going to expire in 90 days or 180 days. maybe look a little harder for food items that are going to last. I was surprised to find various university studies on food items that literally last 27 to 30 years, so that you're not having to replace every single 90 to 180 days, that makes the task so overwhelming. Whereas if you get, an oatmeal packet, that's going to last for 27 years. And it's proven, you might lose a percentage or two of, the nutrition value. Thank you. But at the end of the day, I'll take 98% of the nutrition value.
I can't tell you how much I started hating rotating my 72-hour kits when I had 5 people living here. So we started doing the Coast Guard emergency bars in our 72-hour kits because I didn't want to have to redo my food every 6 months or even once a year. It's overwhelming. So don't get overwhelmed. Learn that little tidbit from us. You can buy the Mylar water pouches that I believe for the Coast Guard that I believe last 5 years. And so those would be a tip for at least the 72-hour kit. And look for things that store long-term. There are things when you're starting your food storage that will last 30 years and beyond even. A tip that I would give if I were just starting 37 years ago as a newlywed and was thinking about, okay, we're married, we know that emergency preparedness is important, where can I start? Probably it would be with a 72-hour kit. Maybe ask that for Christmas from your parents. And then just on your own, just start slowly with store things that you eat and eat what you store. And that would be, like if there's a case lot sale, and this is a great time of year for case lot sales. So if you're just thinking about getting going, go buy 10 cans of chili. Chili is a great thing to store, great protein source. It will store well in a cool, dark, dry place. Just, if you're just starting, just go ahead and, start slow. You don't have to get overwhelmed. It can be expensive. So if it takes you 20 years, it's taken us 37 to get where we're at. And fortunately, we've never had a major, major, major disaster where we only depended on what we totally did have in our home. We've been fortunate that way. But you can build toward that. But use your resources. Use your Be Ready Utah. They have lists of what to put in your 72-hour kits. You can go online and look up bug out kits. Do it the way you want it, and just start slow. Just add something every month. Use your Christmases, but use your resources. Utah has great resources. Utah is a great place. They're very prepared.
I would add only that you don't need to wait until a major event such as marriage. Each person should be, looking to how they can be prepared for themselves, right?
Yes, absolutely. I didn't mean just if you're getting married. I was just using that as an example of where we started.
Right.
So, yes. I would like to just, as a final thought, say that I am grateful that to be able to work toward being prepared for something, because the thing that I do know as people, that even if you don't have everything, your neighbor or someone, your family member, somebody will. And I know that in a major emergency, we will all come together and help each other. And so if somebody has a lot of things and you have some things, but maybe not everything, somebody will help you. I know communities are going to come together.
And I would just add, there's a camaraderie in the preparation group. You'll find friends, you'll find people who are interesting, peculiar maybe, but it can be fun if you kind of put yourself into it. And I would just add to what Jennine said, which is you may not have everything, but if you have something, then there's exchanges, and people will be looking for help in a number of ways, and you might just have a skill or some other thing that person needs. And when the chips are down, humanity will be looking out for each other.
I'm Patrick Tedjamulia. This is Maria Tedjamulia, my wife, and we have 5 children now. We just had Ethan just about 3 weeks ago, and he's a beautiful little boy that's joined his older brother Samuel, Marianne, his sister Grace, and our famous or infamous Isaac.
No, he's not famous at all.
And so for us, the beautiful thing about this world is that we're able to be a part of it as a family. And it's important for us to maintain this family and to be secure and safe amongst everything that's happening around this world and everything that's happening here where we live. And so for us, that's why emergency preparedness and being able to make sure that we can keep all of our families secure and safe and happy is a big part of our lives.
So I grew up in California, and growing up there in California, we had natural disasters happening all around us. I was in a location where we didn't have a lot happening directly to us, but there were earthquakes up north that happened whenever I was younger. There was flooding down south. There were landslides, mudslides, fires, and we didn't live, too far away from these disasters, and we could have been part of any of them. And so growing up, my mom and dad were both very vigilant about making sure that we had enough food, making sure that we participated in canning efforts. I remember when I was a youth, several times we brought the canner machines, you know what I'm talking about, and set up the assembly lines, and we had youth activities where we would, can beans or flour or rice or whatever happened to be on the menu that day. And so, so that was part of my growing up. Also, the area of California I was in, we had a lot of food production. We like vineyards and orchards and whatnot, and so there was a church farm there that did grapes and would just dry them and turn them into raisins as part of the preservation. So preparedness was just kind of part of what we did.
Communication is important. So we have a kid's phone that we made available. The kids know where it is. We can always keep it charged. They know how to get into it. It's protected. They know the phone numbers, who to call in case there's an emergency. And so those are important things, because not only communication between our family, but communication between us and our extended family. And so that's what, Maria's done a great job of being able to look into ways we could do that. Right? So how are some of the ways we do that?
Yeah, so I think that you bring up a really good point, because these days we all have our cell phones, right? And no longer do we have that natural landline where, just go and, kids go grab the phone and dial 911. That's what my parents said when I was a kid, go get the cord, go get the phone. But because the phone is usually with me or with my husband, what we've done is we've got one of our old cell phones and we put it on a very limited plan, something that's super cheap each month, and have activated it and put it in a spot that Patrick mentioned where our children can access it. And it has phone numbers in there so that they can reach, the family members or neighbors that are necessary. There's times whenever our cell phones are not going to be able to be used. If there's an earthquake in the state, shut down cellular communication, or the cell towers are out for a period of time. So, in order to be able to communicate during times whenever those cellular communications are down, we have gotten a couple of different devices to be able to solve that. One is that we've gotten some garments that are a satellite communication device. So we've got ourselves a satellite communication device where we are able to text family members in case of an emergency. my family, we are able to program in both email addresses as well as phone numbers into it to be able to communicate with. But also our family members who are long distance, they have gotten on board with us and have gotten their own satellite communication devices so that we can be able to relay to one another, just saying, you know, I'm okay, or, you know, we're hurt, or we're going to this location, we're going to go bug out over, at these coordinates, whatever is needed. In addition to the Garmin's and the satellite communication that we have there, I'm also ham radio certified, and so as an amateur radio operator, I can communicate with people locally and be able to tune into the channels. And the challenge with amateur radio compared to satellite communications, and the reason why we have both, is that amateur radio, depending on the strength and what device you have, it's mainly for local communication unless you relay and you bounce off the ionosphere and you do some really cool stuff. And in times of quick needs to communicate, it's not necessarily the most efficient. In specifically our desire to be able to communicate with family members. If we wanted to communicate with emergency officials locally, of course, I want to use my radio. But to communicate with my family members, we choose to use a satellite communication device that's a little bit more reliable to be able to reach the people that we want to reach. So some advice that I would give for preparing families, specifically children, for emergency preparedness and preparing our home is just take it step by step. Sometimes it feels really, really overwhelming, and for myself, it is overwhelming. It does feel overwhelming at times. Are we perfectly prepared in every single way? Do I have every T crossed? I got it, absolutely not. I don't. And that has taken a bit of a mindset shift for me to be able to lower my expectations of myself and in our home, and realizing that emergency preparedness is a journey. It's not a destination. It's something that we work on continually. It's a lifestyle. It's a habit. It's something that we incorporate in who we are as a family, and help teach children to be able to pace themselves in preparing. Another piece of advice that I would give for families who are looking to prepare, it's really important to have a checklist, to be able to have a place for you to go to be able to check and just say, okay, what's next on my list? Like I said, it's not a destination, it's a journey, and it's gonna come, sometimes you're gonna have like a power weekend where you're like, I'm just gonna get prepared, I'm gonna get my 72-hour kids together, and at the end of that weekend, you're gonna find yourself that there's gonna be a lot of things done, but there might be, you might be about 75% done, and there might be 25% that you have left to do, but then life happens. And you get back to real life, and then weeks pass, and months pass, and if you don't keep a checklist of what you're doing and what supplies that you're needing, or what things that you want to create, or whatever it might be that you're creating, you're going to end up feeling overwhelmed and say, oh, I've got to start over at the beginning. And so one of the tools that has been one of my go-to tools, is having an emergency preparedness binder. Having a place where I have my checklists, and you look at, okay, where did I leave off, and be like, okay, all right, I need to go to the store and go buy more batteries, or I need to update my food in my 72-hour, and it enables me to jump back in without that big level of overwhelm that comes. If I had one last piece of advice to be able to share, is the importance of being prepared in the business parts of your home. That to me is so vital, and yet it's so easily overlooked. We have, we have our files in a filing cabinet somewhere, or we have our papers stuffed underneath our bed or whatnot. But in times of emergency, it really is important to be able to have your business parts of your home put together. And so I know there's a lot of resources out there, but something that I've been focusing on is putting together resources for families to be able to easily have those checklists that I talked about, to be able to get their documents together and have that peace of mind to own that business part of their home.
I think that it's important for everyone that is thinking about emergency preparedness to think about physically what you need to prepare, spiritually how you need to prepare, emotionally how you need to prepare, and mentally. And all those things are important. So when you do your checklists, include those aspects, right? And because emergencies can be hurricanes, can be earthquakes. They can also be, financial situations where you have a tough time as a family, or they can be unexpected changes with injuries or sicknesses, and each of those will hit physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And so those are great things to include, and that if we all understand the purpose of why we have to prepare, and it's as a family, we think of it not only about preparing ourselves as a family and protecting ourselves, but also helping us become better. And if we can prepare, we can become better people that can help others when in times of need. And I think that can change the way that people think about this as a priority.
We got married a little bit later in life. I bought this house before we got married. I was single and planning on having roommates, and then he was one of the nice people that came and helped me paint the house. So when we got married, it was really interesting to find out that we both had an interest in emergency preparedness. He brought some food storage, and I had food storage, and now we have 3 little girls living with us, and we just have a lot of opportunity to practice the preparedness with our little kids. I think in life, just raising kids gives you lots of practice with preparedness situations, because you got to have diapers, you got to have extra food, extra water for your kids. So
gotta know how to put out fires.
Wherever we go, we're always trying to be prepared for our kids.
So in Utah, we live in an area that's a seismically active region. And so it's a good idea to be prepared for an earthquake because we just never know when one's going to happen. We had one last year in the Salt Lake Valley, and we felt that here. It wasn't as big as you would have felt it there. But you just never know. I mean, like the one they had in Japan, that was a really big one. There was one in China as well. So one of the things that we've done to prepare for an earthquake is to try to secure items in our homes that could move when the earthquake hits. So one of the big dangers with an earthquake is glass, breaking glass, and so we try to teach our kids to stay away from windows if there's an earthquake. Also securing furniture, just those simple things are really important to do beforehand, because you can't, once the earthquake hits, you can't say, oh, I'm going to go strap my shelf to the wall. You got to do those kinds of things before.
So we have, to prepare for an earthquake in our house, we have strapped some of our cabinets. We've used various techniques for putting shelves to the wall and finding ways to secure them so they won't tip over. A lot of the things that you could use for an earthquake, you also can use for childproofing, so your furniture won't tip over on your child. So it kind of goes hand in hand, safety for children, safety for earthquakes.
One of the things we did to prepare for an earthquake that maybe not everyone would do is in our food storage room, we have shelves that are securely fastened to the wall. So, if that room were to shake, we wouldn't have jars falling on the floor and breaking. And so I think that's a really important. It's a good idea. It's given us a little more peace of mind something simple.
We also, in our food storage room, got some ratchet straps from Harbor Freight, the cheap kind, and we use those to kind of make a little seat belt around our shelves to keep stuff on in case some shaking happens.
One of the things is, I don't know if you mentioned it, maybe you did, but one important thing in an earthquake is that large furniture can move, like your refrigerator in your kitchen can move. And, if you're in your kitchen, there's always a risk that big fridge is going to come right at you. And so, it's important to look for do a house hunt, look for things like that, and then find ways of securing those items so that, if you can think of it as someone picking up your house and shaking it. If someone were to do that, what would you do beforehand to make sure that you're going to be safe?
We actually have a neighbor who was in an earthquake in, I think, California, and talks about how her fridge flew across the kitchen. So after we had our earthquake that happened here in our area, we actually got online and found some appliance straps, and we got them for all of our fridges and freezers and got them installed. So we feel a little safer about that now. Although there's plenty more to do always. One more tip about earthquake preparedness. There are some various supplies you can get, like earthquake putty and I think it's called museum wax. You can get to actually secure objects to your shelves. So you can secure your shelves to the wall, but then you need to secure some things that are on your shelves so they won't all fall off. And so you can get some putties to put underneath them to help secure them in place. And I need to do a little bit more of that around our house. But I did put some actually behind some of our pictures, so it just kind of keeps them a little more secure on the wall. I also have some 3M like picture mounting strips that I'm also planning to put behind some of the pictures to help keep them more secure.
We also have some pictures in our hallway hanging over our stairway, and we were concerned about those falling in an earthquake. So we used some picture hangers that are earthquake proof so that they can withstand a lot of shaking and they still won't fall. So just little things like that are really nice. Another danger with an earthquake that's really common is fires. So when an earthquake happens, one thing that can get damaged is your gas line. And if you're like us, we have natural gas. And one of the primary components of natural gas is methane. And when methane mixes with air, it's highly explosive. And so that's why the gas company tells you that if after an earthquake you smell gas, you need to be able to shut off your gas line. And so we have a tool for shutting off our gas line that's connected to our gas outlet. So we know where it is, and we have the tool, and we can shut it off if we need to.
Only if we need to.
Right, so you don't want to shut off your gas if you don't smell gas after an earthquake, because if it's winter and it's cold, that gas is not going to be turned on until the gas company gets around to it, which can take a long time. And you shouldn't turn it on yourself, because only somebody from the gas company is supposed to do that. So I first got involved with amateur radio through my brother got his license, and then later on I was at a preparedness fair and someone was selling amateur radios, and I went and talked to him, and they convinced me to get a radio, but then I had to take the test. So I studied and learned all the things that are involved with amateur radio and passed that, and there's also a Utah Valley Amateur Radio Club that I participate in. So there's a lot of great people that can help get you up to speed, and And some of those are involved with emergency preparedness. Others are involved with like bike races and things like that, events. So radio is great for that because it's kind of like it's a conference call, except, you know, everybody can hear everybody, and so that works well for an event. Hamstudy.org has all of the test questions, so you can go in there, and if you study a section at a time, that's a good way to prepare. You can also take a class, so they have technician, general, extra classes you can take. Those are a great resource as well. So it just depends on what fits you. The easier, the first level tests, you can just study the questions and be fine without a class. A lot of people do that.
The thing I would want people to know about preparedness is it's an ongoing process, and don't feel stressed about it. Don't feel overwhelmed about being prepared. It's just one step at a time, do a little better. We make mistakes all the time in life and wish we had been better prepared. Well, learn from your mistake and just be a little better prepared the next time. That's what we do.
One of the things that's important to keep in mind as well is that no one's ever completely prepared for an emergency. But we can do little things each day to improve our preparedness. And if we do that, and if we keep on preparing, then it's amazing what we can accomplish and what we can be ready for. And that's the goal, is to be ready and to be able to help yourself and to help your neighbors.
Well, thank you to our families. Huge shout out of thanks to each one of those 4 families. We appreciate their time, and again, letting us into their homes to video record them. What we'd like to do, if we've got a couple of minutes, is just to let you know that these videos in more full-length form, still edited, will be found on the Be Ready Utah YouTube channel, and there will be a link to that. And that will be available starting on Monday, so that you can get a little more information from each one of these families that we interviewed. We hope that we've given you some ideas for your individual situation and circumstance. We realize that we didn't interview singles, we didn't interview elderly. There are maybe families with special needs, that kind of thing. Maybe we can do that next time, and we hope that we'll have you with us to do that. But the bottom line is, the more that we can do a little bit at a time helps us to be more resilient and also to be more responsive to others. I hope that was a takeaway message for you. Are there any questions that we can answer for you? And Wade, at this point, I know our time is getting quite short. If you want to field some of those, or if there are any that I have not seen, please feel free to interject thoughts and comments at this point.
Okay, Teresa, thank you. I'm looking in the chat window right now. We've got a great team of experts, and we want to thank them for monitoring the chat window in our YouTube feed, live feed tonight, who have been fielding your questions. I guess I could bring my camera up with you too, Teresa, there. So yeah, we want to thank all those people that have been working behind the scenes to field those questions for us. But James, I don't know if you want to just open your mic. Are there any questions that we have not answered yet this evening?
Yeah, no questions at this time.
All right, thank you. A little bit of echo there. But Teresa, thank you so much for putting that together. I think that's an excellent example that those 4 families have shown. And yeah, I think you're right. We can reach out to some different demographics, if you will. Yeah. In a future one. Jennine, do you have a comment?
No, do you want me to have a comment? I didn't know if you were asking me a question. Sorry, I didn't push anything. I just would like to say I'm just really impressed and pleased with the other families that I saw, and I just say go for it and start somewhere, start small.
You had a lot of great advice, you and your husband. We appreciate your participation in the
older of the group here.
Pardon me?
I said we're the older of the group, so we've had a lot of years to work on things. So
yeah, you had a lot of great advice and a lot of great comments and feedback, and we appreciate you taking that time out to do that for us this evening. Again, so if there are any other questions, we can take them at this time. And
any comments from our family members, Maria or Michelle or anybody, if there's no questions?
Yeah, sometimes I think, Brian asked the question again, final thoughts, but after doing this and after watching these other videos, do you have any other thoughts or that you'd like to share with us, our video members that are here with us tonight?
Yes, this is Maria Tedjamulia here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Maria.
I'm not sure if my mic was on. All right. Thank you so much to Teresa for the opportunity to be able to be part of this, because one of the things that was a big aha for me is that we are never going to be done. Like, I think I was always working towards I'm going to be prepared someday. And then as I went through the exercise again of just trying to get my ducks in order, just a little bit further, I realized I'm like, no, if we put in our minds this expectation that it's all going to be done and we're going to have our everything completed and then we're prepared, that's not realistic. And so my encouragement is for families out there, for individuals out there, to just pick one thing and do it, and be okay if it's B- work. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful backpack. It doesn't have to be the most up-to-date, technology device, whatever, but just do B- work and it's good enough. And one of the things that I've done to be able to help my family, and I mentioned this in the video, is having checklists and binders and those kinds of things have been so helpful for me. And what I've done is I created them for my family, but I've also made them available for other families so that you can download them. And I've also put them on an editable Canva template. If anybody uses Canva out there, so you can edit it for your family and print them. I will throw into the chat here the link to that so you can just download it for free. It's a free resource. Totally have it. And the website is mom.mba/family plan. And like I said, I'll put that in the chat, but it's just a free resource, something that I created for my family and from me to you. You can have it.
That's awesome.
Great.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. I'm going to keep my camera closed so we can just have the four of you on the screen for right now. But Teresa, there is a question there for Michelle. Is it difficult to do the furniture stuff that bolts to the wall, Michelle?
So to bolt the furniture to the wall, there's a variety of different ways of doing it, and they're pretty straightforward. You can just get the brackets that are the L-shaped brackets that you attach to the wall and the furniture. We actually haven't used any of those, but we've used some appliance straps that are kind of some tape that you just find a stud in your wall and then you just have to screw it in. My husband did all the work, so it was easy for me. Anything you want to say about the straps?
It just takes a little time. You just got to do a hazard hunt and see, what furniture needs to be secured. And then the next step is to figure out how you're going to do that. The hardware stores have a lot of things. So it just takes time. You got to work on it a little bit at a time.
I just also wanted to say I appreciate listening to all the other families and all the ideas. I just love to hear ideas on what people are doing, and I hope that it continues. Sorry, we have some chaos here.
Thank you. All right, Wade, if there's, I don't know whether or not Jeff or Kim had any final thoughts or comments to add to, that'd be great. Otherwise, Wade, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you again, Teresa, for putting together such a fun and interesting webinar session this evening. I think it's fun to watch all those different families here and listen to them just kind of talk together about their preparedness efforts. And yes, I definitely learned a lot. So we do have a survey that we'd like you to complete. All of our viewers here, you should see the link in the chat window right now. If you will click on that and answer those questions for us and just provide us a little bit of feedback so that we can continue to plan and conduct, hopefully informative webinars that you'd like to see. And as of last time, similar to last time, we will do a random drawing from everyone who submits a completed survey form, and have a prize for you. A couple of Be Ready Utah incentive items. One of the gas meter wrenches that you saw in one of the videos, one of our Be Ready Utah PSA videos, one of those little commercials talked about the gas wrench, and a little Be Ready Utah flashlight. So if you'll finish that survey, would really appreciate it. Okay, there is one more question. I don't know if we still have some of our panelists on here. What are all the things that you didn't have when the quake, disaster, or pandemic happened that hit you like, oh, I wish we had this thing? Are there any thoughts from anybody on our panelists, if you're still here, to answer that question? What was something you wish you had during one of these recent disasters, the earthquake or the pandemic? Anyone?
On March 14th of 2020, I remember the day, right after the quake, I ended up running over to the hardware store and buying a generator. That was one of those big purchases that I had been avoiding because it's so expensive. But I was like, the world's ending, get a generator. So that was me.
All right, Maria, that's a great one. Thank you so much. And of course, as I mentioned in my presentation, make sure you use it safely and properly outdoors and don't overload it. But yeah, great item to put in your emergency preparedness planning. And also, are there any instructions online about strapping furniture to the walls? Marilyn Hoff, the earthquake lady from Be Ready Utah. Is that one you want to answer, Linda? I'm sorry.
Hi. Thank you. I have right here, it's called Quake Hold, and it's furniture strap that you can purchase at any hardware stores or emergency stores. And what it is, it's a heavy duty strap that you do not need to put holes in your furniture. It has holes in the strap where you find the stud, and you attach the strap to the stud. 16 inches is another stud. Put the second strap, push your furniture to the strap, and then bring your Velcro up and then take the tape off and strap it. That way, or stick it. And that way you won't have to put holes in your furniture. And they also have flat screen straps, freestanding flat screen straps, and it's also Quake Hold. Quake Hold came from California. So California is Utah's teacher. So we've learned a lot from them. And also a lot of people will secure furniture with different size L-shaped brackets. So there's a lot of hardware out there. It's up to you to take action. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. And how timely was it that you had all those show and tell items ready to go right there for that question? So that was perfect. Thank you for sharing those. Those are great ideas. Okay, we are just coming right up on 9 o'clock. Again, just want to encourage everyone to fill out the survey that you see there in the chat window. And we will have a drawing for one winner, just a random drawing for a gas meter wrench and a Be Ready Utah flashlight. Again, a reminder, tickets go on sale tomorrow for the Be Ready Utah Expo, coming up February 25th and 26th of 2022 at the Mountain America Expo Center. You can go to Eventbrite. I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous session. You go to Eventbrite and just look up Be Ready Utah, just like you found these tickets and registered for this webinar. Do the same thing. Go to eventbrite.com and just look up Be Ready Utah, and you'll find the tickets for our Be Ready Utah Expo. Again, I want to thank everyone from our committee who has spent so much time planning this. I want to thank our guests, Jeff and the 4 families that were featured in our videos, and those that have joined us this evening to help answer questions. Thank you for your sharing of your experiences and knowledge and expertise. And behind the scenes, our question answering team of experts. Thank you to our behind the scenes, who I'm just thanking, Brian Stinson, for all the work technology-wise, video-wise, and making this happen in our live stream. So with that, I think we will call it an evening. Hope to see you next time. Everybody have a good evening. And as Marilyn said, take action towards preparedness. Take something that you heard tonight, take something you learned tonight, and go do it. Anytime's a good time to talk about preparedness. Anytime's a great time to take action towards preparedness. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great evening.